God's not like parents today. So, God didn't feel he needed to explain himself to Job in the midst of his fit. Before he was going to bless Job, he needed to reestablish what exactly the parameters of their relationship are. Now, I told about Christopher Hitchens' book. I said, God is not great, because it demonstrates how atheists aren't really non-believers. They're just angry at God. Well, ironically, his brother, who was Peter Hitchens, wrote kind of an answer to that, and the title of his book is The Rage Against God, How Atheism Led Me to Faith. So his brother became a believer through this whole thing by realizing it's just really hatred towards God. So, if your child is doing this, if they're like yelling at you and screaming and they don't like your plan, do you quietly, nicely explain to them why you're doing what you're doing? Well, if you read a lot of Dr. Spock books, you do. And if a whole generation of parents does that with their child, what we get is a whole generation of entitled millennials who act like a bunch of spoiled brats and don't really understand what their place is. The reality is you might not like it, but because I said so is the most important lesson for that child to learn at this point. Now think how comical it is when a child thinks they know more about how the world works than we do. Now I'm comparing a 10-year-old to a 40-year-old. Think how much funnier it is for a 40-year-old to compare my knowledge of the world to an infinite God. It's insane. And not only does God have the infinity of experience to compare against my little tiny snippet of life, he's not just a watcher. He's the engineer who designed everything. He knows the end better than we can perceive our history and our present. So, really, the lesson he says first is, I'm the Father, you're the Son, you're dependent upon me. That's the first lesson, because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That's in a whole bunch of different proverbs. If you wait till you perfectly understand to obey, you're never going to obey because you're never going to understand. You have to follow first. And when you follow in your submission, then he will give you understanding.